Hi guys, and welcome back. Today I'm here with a more serious video, probably the most serious video that I've ever put out on the internet. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know that Miss Eliza has had something like going on with her stomach her whole life, and I always was bringing it up to the doctor and saying things like, you know, she's throwing up a lot, and he's like, oh, well, some kids just spit up more than others, and she's always had diarrhea, always had diaper rashes from the diarrhea, and I'm always like, there's something wrong, and I think he kind of took it as, oh, I'm just a first-time mom, I don't know what I'm talking about, which I totally understand, and I'm not putting him at any fault for this. I think he's a wonderful physician, I love him, and I would recommend him to anybody. So one day he was out and she needed to be seen for a possible ear infection. It turned out to be an ear infection, and the doctor that we were seeing just asked about like how she was otherwise, and I got into like her stomach issues and everything that had been going on, and she immediately, like as soon as I said there was mucus in her poop, immediately said, I'm referring you guys to GI, she's too old for this to like be an issue. And I don't know if I ever mentioned before that when she was exclusively breastfed like 6 months and before, I had to cut dairy and soy out of my diet to try to help with the poops, and it helped a little bit, and I thought she was allergic to apples, but we got like a scratch test done and it came back negative, showing that she wasn't allergic to apples. So we kind of just went about, you know, our typical life until this doctor was like, you're going to a GI doctor and you're going now. So they ended up seeing us in like 2 days. We went in and we started doing different things. We tried to put her on Miralax to see if she was like constipated behind the softer poop and see if that's what like was causing these issues. Put her on a stronger reflux medication to see if it would help with the throwing up. The Miralax did nothing. It didn't make her go any more or any less. She was going 5 to 6 times a day with or without it. The reflux medicine helped tremendously. So I called the doctor and I was like, hey, so the reflux medication is working great. She's not doing good with the Miralax. It's not changing anything. He's like, okay, stop the Miralax, and I want you to, at the time we were supplementing coconut milk for breast milk when she was at daycare. He's like, I want you to stop the coconut milk. And I don't know, I had miscommunicated that she'd been having these issues longer than, like she'd been having these issues her entire life, and it wasn't since the coconut milk was introduced. But I was like, I'll try anything at this point. Like I am so desperate, I will literally do anything. So I stopped the coconut milk, no change, called back. We stopped feeding her berries, no change, called back. And at this point she had refused every single other milk alternative. So we had been giving her formula, but it was messing with her stomach. So I told the doctor that like over the phone when I left the message, and he said that we should put her on a prescription formula called Neocate, and they would give me some samples to see how she did, and that we should recut all dairy and soy from her diet because we had reintroduced it to me at first and she did fine. So when we introduced it to her, the issues had never completely stopped, but they got worse, but I never thought that it could be affecting her because it was reintroduced to me and she was fine with it through me. We stopped all dairy and soy, and we stopped trying to give her milk alternatives, and we gave her the formula, which she loved, thankfully, because she had lost 2 pounds. So then we had an appointment, and we went in, and he was going deeper and deeper into like her history, and I was telling him like when her symptoms all started and how like her whole life had gone and how we had seen allergists, and the only thing that ever came back was clams and codfish, but I really felt that she was like reacting some way to this food. And so he said, well, there is this condition, it's called FPIES, which is Food Protein Induced Enterocolitis Syndrome. And he went on to explain all of the symptoms, and he said that there was no doubt in his mind that that is what she had. Fortunately, this is something that she probably will grow out of. Most children do, but at the same time, she has had it and has been exposed to her trigger foods for so long that her entire life, her colon and her small intestines have been swollen and inflamed and painful. So as far as like the extensive damage, or if there's any damage to those organs, we're not really sure of. So basically what FPIES is, it's an allergy, but it's an internal allergy. So on a skin test, it won't show up. It won't send you into anaphylactic shock. Some of the symptoms are vomiting, diarrhea, uncontrollable crying, starting to refuse foods that they once liked because they made the connection that it hurt their stomach. Dehydration, which can lead to shock, which can lead to death. And that's so scary to think about, that like this whole time, my daughter's whole life, like the things I've been feeding her have been putting her at risk to die. Like, that's insane to me. Where we're at now, I'm gonna read to you a list of foods that are safe and a list of foods that are not safe for Miss Eliza. And every day I'm finding that she is reacting to like more things. So we're switching things around, and right now we're down to 14 safe foods. Berries, pears, peaches, avocados, tomato, turkey, haddock, salmon, pork, green beans, peas, egg, zucchini, squash, and then Neocate, which is her formula. Not safe for right now, all that we know of, is dairy, soy, wheat, barley, oats, chicken, beef, corn, and then codfish and clams, but those are EpiPen, like IgE reactions, not the internal reactions. So those have like a little, you know, thing showing EpiPen / Benadryl. Sweet potatoes, beans, bread, pasta, and rice. Now, she hasn't had all of the foods on the safe list since her diagnosis, so for all I know, when I give it to her, she will react and I will notice it like I didn't notice it in the past, because she was also having dairy, which is like her biggest trigger, and soy, which is like her second biggest trigger. So realistically, it's just a learning game and deciding what she can have, what she can't have, like figuring everything out. It's a ton of work, and it's so scary now. I get like nervous to feed her. Whenever I'm feeding her, like, is she gonna react to this? And I'm gonna notice, and she started spitting, throwing up, whatever you wanna call it, again, which she hasn't done in a while. So that's scary, just because now I know the risk of dehydration. And before, if she spit up, I was like, oh, whatever. But now I know that like I need to push fluids, because she can get so dehydrated that she goes into shock and dies. And unfortunately, I didn't know that, and I feel bad that like she's been dehydrated a bunch of times probably, and I had no idea. Because I thought, oh, well, this is just how she poops. Oh, we're just gonna wait it out. Oh, some kids are just like this. Some kids just spit up more. And it was never that. It was always a reaction. Right now, our biggest issue is the formula is $46 a can. If you watch my channel at all, you know I am super duper poor. Our big issue right now is the formulas. Cans are $46 a can, and insurance is not covering. Now, FPIES is not like a widely known disease, and her doctor probably didn't capture it because he's not a GI specialist. He knows a little bit about a lot, but FPIES is like a specialty and people don't know about it. It's not something anyone talks about. It's their whole slogan is like rare but real. So realistically, like, I can't blame him, and I do not blame him at all. Like, I love him, and he just left the practice to move, and like I'm so upset because like I feel he was such a great doctor. So I'm not trying to blame him. But yeah, our insurance will not cover the formula because it's not like well known, and it's a fight. It's gonna be a fight. But unfortunately at this point, with just her safe foods and her diet, and more with the possibility of being cut out if I see a reaction at all, sadly and like unfortunately, this is gonna be life-saving for her. Like, this is going to be necessary because it's going to be providing more of her nutrition than the actual food she's eating. She's gonna have a huge nutritional gap just because we can't get in a lot of proteins and we can't get in a lot of whatever else. She is still breastfeeding, thankfully, so when she's with me, she's fine, but my fear is when she goes to daycare full-time, when I'm working, you know, 50 hours a week, it'll be 35. I'll be working 51 hours a week. She'll be away from me for 51 plus hours because you have to add in transportation time. I am like so nervous that she's not gonna be able to eat enough food, and we're not gonna have the formula covered by insurance, and she's gonna drop weight and things are gonna get really sticky. And so if any of you have any experience with fighting insurance companies to cover insurance, please reach out to me in any way. Like, find me on Facebook, tweet me, and I'll DM you. Find me on Instagram. unfortunately, like, this is medically necessary for her to have this formula, and I can't afford it. If I have to pay for it, I'll have to pay for it and not pay bills, because obviously her health is more important. Her health is the most important to me, but at the same time, I can't not pay my bills, you know what I mean? So everything's super stressful. That's why I haven't been getting vlogs up. That's where we've been. That's what we've been figuring everything out. Super stressful time in my life, but I felt that like I needed to be honest with you guys and let you guys know what's going on and not just stop putting up videos for no reason. I have no idea what is her future. I don't know if she'll outgrow this. I don't know how long she'll need to remain on the formula. I don't know when she'll be safe to eat these foods, if ever. It's a lot to like take in and process, and I'm like a first-time mom, and all this time I thought like she'd just grow out of it, but if you notice, like in some of the videos, sometimes her stomach looks like swollen or like distended. That's because her colon and her intestines are swollen. I always thought she was just chunky. I mean, she's pretty chunky, but a lot of it is the swelling, and it's going down now, and I just see her every day. I'm like, you are getting so skinny. I want my chunky baby back. Her mood has been a lot better. She's been sleeping better, aside from last night, because she had apples, and it's funny because I thought she was allergic to apples when she was little, but the skin test said she wasn't, even though she really was. So she had the apples. About 3 hours later, she got diarrhea, and she was up like 4 or 5 times crying last night, to the point where I texted my mom and was like, because I was going to work, I was like, can you take her to the doctor tomorrow to check for ear infection? And then I woke up and I talked to my mom. She's like, if you want me to take her, just call and make an appointment. I'll take her. Not a big deal. I'm like, okay. And then I got in my car, I'm driving to work, and I realized like she had apples last night. She doesn't eat apples a lot. She's had them before, but always when she also was having dairy. So that's when I realized that like that's probably just a trigger food. Same thing happened with corn a couple days ago, although she had it much earlier in the day, so she felt better by the time it was time to go to sleep, so she wasn't up all night. But overall, like, I can see improvements every day in just the way she acts and the amount of fussiness. So honestly, I'm like forever grateful for this diagnosis. I never wanted my kid to have a diagnosis, but now that she was having all these problems for so long and they were just being blown off, and now that we have the diagnosis, I'm like, thank God. Like, thank God now I know what it is, so I can work on fixing it. So that's it. That's where we've been. She is napping right now. I do have some vlogs that I'm gonna put together. I'm gonna try to get one up tomorrow, one up maybe Monday. You will be seeing us back shortly and seeing how I'm adjusting to living with Lyme disease and how I'm now adjusting to her FPIES diagnosis and how we're working through it as a family together. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can meet Eliza if you're watching this only because you saw the title and were captivated. So if you'd like to meet her, hit the subscribe button. I'll have videos up for you soon. If you have any advice on how to get insurance to cover formula, please reach out to me. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and as always, we'll see you next time. Bye.
I'm beginning to understand, the little prince said. There's a flower. I think she's tamed me.